Somewhere below this trail, the largest freshwater lake on Earth is taking a cliff apart. Not quickly, not violently today, but every wave that hits this shoreline is prying at a seam in rock that was laid down before anything with a backbone existed. The result is a mile after mile of caves, arches, and pillars cut into red sandstone by water. People come here to paddle into them. People have also died trying. Let us walk out to the edge and understand why. We are on the mainland unit of Apostle Islands National Lakeshore, on the north shore of the Bayfield Peninsula in far northern Wisconsin. The trailhead is Mayors Beach, off State Highway 13, about 18 miles west of Bayfield. The park itself is 21 islands and a 12-mile strip of mainland shoreline, about 69,000 acres in all. The caves lie along the cliffs to the northeast of us. Just west of them is a bay called Mawickwi. Everything here starts with the rock, so let us be precise about it, because most of what gets said about this sandstone is wrong. The bedrock of the Apostle Islands is called the Bayfield Group, and it comes in 3 layers. At the bottom, the Orienta. In the middle, the Devil's Island Formation. On top, the Chequangan. The caves are cut into the middle layer, the Devil's Island. That distinction turns out to be the entire reason the caves exist at all. Roughly 1.1 billion years ago, North America began to tear itself in half. A rift opened, a crack in the continent running some 1,800 miles from Kansas up through Lake Superior and back down into Michigan. Lava poured out of it. And then, after 15 or 20 million years, the rift simply stopped. It failed. What it left behind was an enormous sagging basin in the crust, and that basin is the reason Lake Superior is where it is. Into that failed rift, over a very long time, rivers poured sand. Braided streams and broad sand flats laid down layer after layer of red and pink grains, thousands of feet of them. This is the sandstone we are standing on. It is post-rift sediment. It did not come from the volcanoes. It came afterward, filling the hole the volcanoes left. Say roughly 1 billion years old, and say it carefully, because geologists are still arguing about the exact number. The Devil's Island Formation is about 300 feet thick, and it is different from the layers above and below it. It is fine-grained and thinly bedded, laid down on sand flats that were sometimes covered by shallow ponded water. You can still see ripple marks in it. Thin beds mean thin seams, stacked close together, thousands of them. Every one of those seams is a weakness. 1 billion years later, a lake would find every single one. It is worth admitting what is not settled. The Park Service dates this rock to the Mesoproterozoic, close to 1 billion years. But newer work, dating tiny zircon crystals inside the sandstone, argues it may be considerably younger, well into the Neoproterozoic. So we say roughly 1 billion years and we leave the door open. A place is not made less astonishing by an honest uncertainty. It is made more trustworthy. Then, very recently by the standards of this rock, came the ice. The Laurentide ice sheet ground down through this basin again and again. It scoured out the soft ground between the harder knobs of sandstone, and those knobs became the Apostle Islands. It cut the sea cliffs. When the ice finally pulled back, roughly 12,000 years ago, a huge meltwater lake called Glacial Lake Duluth filled the basin, standing hundreds of feet above the lake we see now. And then the land began to rise. Freed of miles of ice, the crust started springing back, and it is still springing back today. The northeastern end of Lake Superior is rising faster than the southwestern end, which means the whole lake is very slowly tilting. Water levels fell, shorelines shifted, and eventually the cliffs on our right were exposed to open water. The lake got its hands on the rock. It has not let go since. Here is the mechanism, and it is beautifully simple. A wave hits the base of a cliff and finds a bedding plane, a seam between two thin layers. It drives water and air into that seam under pressure. Grain by grain, it hollows out a notch. The Park Service calls these notches ray entrants. They deepen, year after year, decade after decade, working backward into the cliff, following the flaw. And then winter arrives and does the work the waves cannot. Water seeps into every crack in the sandstone and freezes. Ice takes up more room than water, so it expands, and it prizes the thin beds apart with a force nothing here can resist. Then it thaws and the water runs in deeper. Freeze, expand, thaw, repeat. This cliff is being levered open every single winter, quietly in the dark under the snow. Now put those two processes together and run them for a few thousand years. Separate ray entrants, chewing inward from different points along the cliff, eventually meet each other behind the rock face. When they meet, they merge into a single cave, and the stone left standing between them becomes a pillar or a bridge or an arch. The arches of the Apostle Islands are not sculptures. They are the leftovers. They are what the lake has not finished eating. And this is not past tense. The Park Service warns visitors to stay well back from these cliff edges because they are actively eroding, right now, under our feet. The ground we are standing on is a roof over a cave that has not been discovered yet. Every arch out there has a date on which it will fall. We simply do not know which one is next or when. And the thing doing all of this is Gichigami. In Ojibwemoan, the Park Service glosses that as a Great Lake and notes it as a word of respect, not merely size. It is the largest freshwater lake on Earth by surface area, roughly 31,700 square miles, around 2,900 cubic miles of water, deep enough at over 1,300 feet to hide almost anything. It is not a lake in any sense that a swimmer would recognize. Superior generates waves the way an ocean does, because it has the room to. 200 miles of open water for the wind to push across. In October 2017, A buoy out there measured a significant wave height of 28.8 feet, the largest ever recorded on the Great Lakes. And significant wave height is an average of the biggest third, meaning individual waves that day were considerably larger than that. But the waves are not what kills people here. The temperature is. The Park Service gives an average summer surface temperature of about 59 degrees Fahrenheit. In May and June, it sits in the 40s. Even in late August, the surface rarely exceeds 60. This water is cold in a way that has nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with physiology. It is cold enough to shut a human body down. You cannot walk into these caves. From this trail, you can look down into a few of them, but to actually enter them, you need a kayak, or you need the lake to freeze. By water, the Park Service puts the first caves about 1.5 miles from the launch at Mayer's Beach, with another 3 miles of cave-riddled cliff beyond that. It is a serious paddle, and it is spectacular, and it is where people get into trouble. The gear list is not decorative. A life jacket, which is the law, a wet suit or a dry suit, a sea kayak of at least 16 feet, a spray skirt, a paddle float, a bilge pump, a whistle, a marine radio. Do not go alone. Do not go in rough conditions. Every item on that list exists because somebody at some point did not have it. And here is the specific trap of this place, the thing that makes these caves more dangerous than open water. When waves strike a vertical cliff, they do not break and dissipate the way they do on a beach. They bounce. They reflect straight back out and they collide with the next wave coming in. The Park Service calls the result confused water. Steep, chaotic, unpredictable standing peaks of water right at the base of the rock. Which means the lake can lie to you. You launch from Mayer's Beach on a calm morning, on a gently shelving sand beach where the water behaves itself. You paddle 1.5 hours, and you arrive in a completely different regime, where the same modest swell has become a chaos of reflected peaks against a wall of stone with nowhere to land. The beach told you one thing: the cliff was never bound by it. The Park Service teaches cold water immersion as a rule of 3 numbers. 1 minute to get past the gasp reflex and orient yourself and float. 10 minutes of useful movement before the cold takes your hands and arms away from you. 1 hour before the water becomes fatal. 1, 10, 1. Hypothermia can begin in as little as 10 minutes. Note what that means. Your hands stop working long before you stop being conscious. The Park Service states it plainly. Kayakers have had fatal accidents at these sea caves. In August 2004, a paddler in his 20s capsized in strong wave backwash off the caves, in 3 to 4 foot waves, in water around 41 degrees. He was in the lake for over an hour. He was found floating inside a sea cave with a body temperature of 77 degrees. He died of hypothermia. In June 2007, a 55-year-old kayaker capsized near these same caves. Again 3 to 4 foot waves. Again water around 41 degrees. He was not wearing a wet suit or a dry suit. He died of hypothermia. His companion survived only by finding a submerged ledge and standing on it in chest-deep water. 2 people, 3 years apart, killed by the same cliff in almost exactly the same way. There have been other deaths elsewhere in these islands in other conditions, but those 2 at these caves are the ones this shoreline owns, and they were not freak events. Both were 3 to 4 foot waves. Both were 41-degree water. Both were experienced enough to be out there. There is now a wave monitoring system at the caves, run out of the University of Wisconsin, telling paddlers in real time exactly how big the swell is. Use it. There is one other way into these caves, and it is the reason many people know this place at all. In some winters, Lake Superior freezes hard enough that you can simply walk out onto it, cross 1.5 miles of frozen lake, and stroll into the caves on foot, under ceilings hung with frozen waterfalls and columns of ice. They are called the ice caves, and they are one of the rarest sights in North America. The conditions required are brutal and specific: sustained sub-zero temperatures, winds low enough that an unbroken ice shelf can form instead of being smashed apart, the shelf anchored to the land and reaching miles offshore, frozen ground for the ice to grip, ice thick enough to carry a crowd, and then auger tests drilled by rangers to confirm it. Every one of those has to line up. Usually, at least one does not. The Park Service ran the numbers, and they are startling. Between the year 2000 and 2023, the mainland ice caves were open on 2% of all days. 2%. And almost all of that access was concentrated into 4 outlier years. Access requires ice cover on Lake Superior above about 90%. And in 2014 and 2015, the 2 years it really worked, cover exceeded 95. Conditions can also collapse faster than you can walk. In 2013, ice that looked solid became open water inside 36 hours. The winter of 2014 is the one everybody remembers. The caves opened for the first time since 2009, and photographs of them went around the world. An estimated 138,000 people came, in the dead of winter, to walk across a frozen lake in northern Wisconsin. It was worth something like $10 to $12 million to the Bayfield area. Then 2015 gave 9 days, and then the lake closed the door. Nothing in 2016, nothing in 2017, nothing in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, or 2025. 11 consecutive winters in which Lake Superior did not freeze hard enough, or calmly enough, or long enough to let anyone walk out to these caves. Think about what that actually means. A child born the year of the Great Ice Cave winter finished elementary school and started middle school without the lake ever once offering it again. And then on the 16th of February 2026, it happened. A stretch of sub-zero cold and dead calm winds built a stable shelf. The augurs came back good, and the Park Service opened the ice caves for the first time in 11 years. Thousands of people came, and the very next day, the 17th, access was closed ahead of an incoming storm. That storm broke the ice shelf apart. 11 years of waiting, and the lake gave back exactly one day. This is not bad luck. The Park Service publishes the trend, and it is unambiguous. Since 1975, the ice season on Lake Superior has been starting later by about 11.7 days per decade and ending earlier by about 3 days per decade. Superior is among the fastest warming large lakes on Earth. Its summer surface temperature rose faster than the air above it because less ice means darker water, and darker water absorbs more sun, which means still less ice. So the ice caves are not merely rare. They are becoming rarer on a measurable slope in one direction. What we are watching is a phenomenon moving from uncommon toward extinct within a human lifetime. That single day in February 2026 was not a return. On the evidence, it was an exception, and the Park Service said as much when the storm took it back. There is an irony buried in this coast. The same red sandstone the lake is carving into caves was, for 30 years, quarried and shipped away in blocks. Brownstone, they called it. Commercial quarrying began in 1868 on Basswood Island, and through the 1880s and 90s, 6 quarries in this region cut this rock and sent it east. Stone from Basswood Island built the first Milwaukee County courthouse. The lake makes arches out of it. We made courthouses. The park holds 10 light stations, the oldest on Michigan Island from 1856. The lighthouse historian F. Ross Holland called it the largest and finest single collection of lighthouses in the country, and there is an accident hidden in them. Around each light, 400 acres were reserved for the keeper. On Devils and Raspberry Islands, the entire island was. That bureaucratic reservation quietly saved some of the largest unlogged tracts of hemlock and yellow birch in the upper Midwest. And all of it sits in the homeland of the Anishinaabe. The Red Cliff and Bad River bands of Lake Superior, Chippewa are sovereign nations, right here, right now, fishing under treaty rights reserved in 1854 and never surrendered. When this park was first proposed in the 1960s, the original plan would have taken reservation land. The bands fought it and they won. This park exists in the shape it does because they refused the first draft. The bay ahead is Mawikwi. It means weeping woman. So walk out slowly. Under this trail is a billion-year-old flaw in the stone and a lake patiently finding it. Out there is water that has killed people who did everything but one thing right. And in winter, once in a decade if we are lucky and less often every year, it turns to a floor you can walk on. Respect all three. Thank you for watching. Follow for more trails of the world.